And to the Republican presidential campaign. 8 candidates gathered around a table at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire last night for the latest in a series of field-defining debates. NewsHour political editor David Chalian was there, and he joins us now to take us through what happened and why it matters. It seemed like Herman Cain, the Godfather Pizza past CEO, suddenly was in the middle of the table. Everybody was taking aim at him. And let's take a look, before I ask you about this, at what that looked like last night.
And I must admit that simple answers are always very helpful, but oftentimes inadequate.
How many people here are for a sales tax in New Hampshire? Raise your hand. There you go, Herman. That's how many votes you'll get in New Hampshire.
One thing I would say is when you take the 999 plan and you turn it upside down, I think the devil's in the details.
I think it's a catchy phrase. In fact, I thought it was the price of a pizza when I first heard about it.
999 will pass, and it is not the price of a pizza because it has been well studied and well developed. It starts with, unlike your proposals, throwing out the current tax code. Continuing to pivot off the current tax code is not going to boost this economy. This is why we developed 999. 9% corporate business flat tax, 9% personal income flat tax, and a 9% national sales tax. And it will pass, Senator, because the American people want it to pass.
Now, David, that's a lot of scrutiny all of a sudden for a guy who wasn't taken very seriously until recently.
But in his explanation of his tax overhaul plan, this 999 plan, he's been talking about it for months, Gwen, you see why he has surged. He's got a winning, charming personality. But think about how popular it is for people inside the Republican primary electorate, to Americans more broadly, too, when somebody says, let's toss out the entire tax code. Let's toss out the entire system. It's too complicated. Here's a simple plan.
That's why people like the flat tax back in the day.
Right. So on style, you can see why his style and explaining this plan has fueled this rise that he has in the polls right now. On substance, though, it is going to come in for more and more of a critique. You see independent analysts taking a look at this plan. You see even conservative tax analysts taking a look at this and rejecting it because it would indeed raise taxes on lower income people, lower taxes for the wealthy, and sort of do away with that progressive tax system that many Americans, though complicated, have gotten used to. So when the substance is where he's going to have a tougher time going forward because the scrutiny is only going to increase as he does better in the race.
Well, let's talk about substance and policy, because Mitt Romney, who's perceived once again to be the front runner by every poll, he came under attack again last night for, it was an old complaint, his old Achilles heel, which was the health care plan that he passed while he was governor of Massachusetts. Let's take a look.
Governor Romney, your chief economic advisor, Glenn Hubbard, who you know well, he said that Romney Care was Obamacare. And Romney Care has driven the cost of small business insurance premiums up by 14% over the national average in Massachusetts. So my question for you would be, how would you respond to his criticism of your signature legislative achievement?
I'm proud of what we were able to accomplish. I'll tell you this, though. We have the lowest number of kids as a percentage uninsured of any state in America. You have the highest. I'm still speaking. We have less than 1% of our kids that are uninsured. You have 1 million kids uninsured in Texas. 1 million kids.
Of course, that was Governor Rick Perry of Texas, who was taking on Mitt Romney in this interesting candidate-on-candidate duel they had as part of the debate.
What you see, what Governor Romney just did there is political jujitsu. He took what you called his Achilles heel, which is right. I mean, the quote-unquote Romney Care plan in Massachusetts is indeed sort of anathema because of its mandate to many in the Republican nominating electorate. He turned the tables, though, and went after Governor Perry to try to compare his Texas health care record to Governor Romney's Massachusetts health care record. And it was probably the only time we saw direct engagement, Gwen, between the former frontrunner Rick Perry and the current frontrunner Mitt Romney. Mostly Mitt Romney has ignored Rick Perry last night, and Rick Perry tended to fade from the scene a little bit. That's a new dynamic in this race. Many of the last debates, we saw them go head-to-head on a lot of issues. This time, Mitt Romney once again tried to stay above the fray.
Here's another issue we expected to hear more about and didn't until last night, this issue of corporate bailouts. We heard the candidates all of a sudden engage each other on it. It's a toxic issue, which doesn't seem to be going away.
My experience tells me that we were on the precipice, and we could have had a complete meltdown of our entire financial system, wiping out all the savings of the American people. So action had to be taken. Was it perfect? No. Was it well implemented? No, not particularly. Were there some institutions that should not have been bailed out? Absolutely. Should they have used the funds to bail out General Motors and Chrysler? No, that was the wrong source for that funding. But this approach of saying, look, we're going to have to preserve our currency and maintain America and our financial system is essential.
I happen to agree with Governor Romney. The way it was administered is where it got off track. They were discretionary in which institutions they were going to save rather than apply it equitably, which is what most of us thought was going to be done.
One thing we know is true, that TARP is not popular among Republican voters, but a lot of folks on that stage supported it.
The four leading contenders supported it, and Rick Santorum made that point. I think that is going to prove to be a difficult moment for Mitt Romney and Herman Cain, the two leaders in the polls right now as they go forward. Remember, TARP, the bank bailouts of 2008, that gave birth to the Tea Party movement. That is exactly what the Tea Party started rebelling against. And so when you have your leading contenders in the Republican race defending that action that President Bush and Hank Paulson took, that is going to be a tricky moment for the candidates and the electorate to get on the same page.
Let's get outside of the debate hall. You spent the week up in New Hampshire talking to actual voters, David. What are they asking about? What are they saying?
It's not too long before they start weighing in with their votes, Gwen. We're only 3 months away now.
Never too soon.
I went to a couple town halls where Mitt Romney was speaking. Obviously, the economy drives a lot of the questions, but there's not a town hall up there or a voter conversation up there that doesn't involve immigration. Healthcare does come up, especially for Mitt Romney in these town halls. And, of course, government spending. That also is a big question. I will say this, Gwen. The dynamic of this race leading that debate is that Mitt Romney is still very much the front runner, even though, because of his positions on healthcare, because of his positions on TARP, he is not in the same place as the electorate right now, and it's a very odd moment inside the race. He's the front runner, but he caps out at about 25-30%, and there's no enthusiasm for him. Yet nobody has totally coalesced the rest of the party to dethrone him from that position.
You know, he got the endorsement of Chris Christie, the New Jersey governor, yesterday. Seemed to be the signal to conservative voters here, I really am okay. Why isn't this over for him yet?
It's not over because we're now moving into a new phase of the campaign. We have not seen any television ads yet. Rick Perry is about to start spending the $15 million in his bank account to define himself, to define Mitt Romney. We'll see what these outside groups do. We're about to go into a whole new phase of voter communication. I will say this after being on the trail with Mitt Romney this week, though. He is indeed a far better, far more disciplined candidate than he was 4 years ago. And I think that's why you still see him emerging from each one of these debates as, well, Mitt Romney is still the front runner. Nobody's knocked him off yet. We'll see what happens in the new phase.
Do we know when there's going to be a New Hampshire primary? Have they settled on that date yet?
They have not yet settled on that date, but we're hoping it's not December.
Okay, we'll be waiting to see. David Chalian, thanks again.
Thank you.